Hey guys, so today I'm going to be doing a flip through and look inside Lightning Literature and Composition Level Storm. I just put up a video flipping through Lightning Literature and Composition Grade 2, and so I thought I would share what Storm looks like as well. We have used Lightning Literature in the past. We've used grades 4 and 5. We're going to be using grade 2 and level Storm next year. So level Storm is actually a new level that they released, I believe last year, and it is for middle school ages. And so this is kind of for like grades 6 through 8, but it technically, I think, takes place of grade 7. So use this in like 7th or 8th grade. And then they have a level to follow called Tempest, which is the one you'd use after. First, I'm going to give you a look inside the student book. So with Lightning Literature, with level Storm, you get 2 student books. So you got volume 1 and volume 2, and then your teacher's guide, and then your rainy day reader. So those are the main components of this course. And then there are novels that you would get as well. So student workbook volume 1, when you look inside, I'm going to show you the table of contents here. So this is the table of contents, and it shows you the books that you're going to be covering and how many weeks they're going to take. There also are a few little mini units in there. So they have like a nonfiction unit, they have a couple humor units, poetry, little short stories and speeches and stuff. So those are sprinkled in throughout. But the books you're going to be covering in this course are Prairie Lotus, The Hobbit, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, Elijah of Buxton, A Day of Pleasure, and All Creatures Great and Small. So when you look in the student book, it's pretty much set up the same way as the other levels and grades. You have your weekly student checklist. So this will give you kind of a rundown of what will be covered for the whole week. And your student can go through this and check it off as they go through each assignment. I actually be prompted to read this story from Hans Christian Andersen in the Rainy Day Reader, which is this other book over here that I'll show you in a little bit. Then there's some comprehension questions and then the lesson. Then you have day 2, you're reading The Snake in the Rainy Day Reader. You have a comprehension questions and then a lesson about what does good grammar really mean. And this is that lesson. It goes all the way through. Day 3, another short story, some questions, and then the lesson. That's pretty much the flow throughout the whole book. At the end of the unit, which would be day 4, you would have some more discussion questions that you could do. So with these, you're going to be actually discussing them with your child. You could also use any of these for maybe a writing prompt if you want them to respond in a written form. That would be a really good way to do it. And then it goes into the lessons, which is prepositional phrases. And then this is a grammar application here where they're actually going to be underlining the prepositional phrases in these sentences. Then you get into the nonfiction unit 1. You're going to be reading The Peacemaker. There's some comprehension questions, and your lesson is about brainstorming for a personal essay. So I will say that there's definitely a higher writing and composition focus with the lessons than I've seen in other levels before. Here's your discussion questions again. Day 4 is about dependent clauses. Let's get to the end of this. Okay, so this is where your first novel unit will start, and it's The Prairie Lotus, which I'm excited to read. I've actually been wanting to read that one with her for a while. You have your student checklist for the week. And so they're going to be reading chapters 1 through 10 of the book, but it's all broken down. Then there's lessons about titles for personal essays, conclusions of personal essays, pronouns, and conflict. And then you're going to be doing a personal essay. So you're reading chapters 1 and 2 on day 1, and then there's comprehension questions to fill out there. And then the lesson here about introductions for titles for a personal essay. Goes through that. And then day 2, you're reading chapters 3 and 4, questions, lesson. It's pretty much the same flow. Reading 5 through 7, questions and lessons, and the grammar application there. And there are the discussion questions at the end of the book there. Okay, and then you get into another humor unit. So after the humor unit, they're shorter units, you get into your next novel. So you get into The Hobbit. And then I'm just going to give you a quick flip through here of what you're doing here. Follows the same flow the whole way through. I appreciate the color and the way that it's laid out. I don't think it's overwhelming, but it is definitely more than the lower grades. As far as lessons are a bit longer, they're a little bit more detailed. All right, so let's get into volume 2. So you're starting with a poetry unit with volume 2. I always have liked the way that Lightning Lit has done poetry. I've always thought that they do a really good job. So with week 19, you're going to be reading all of these poems in the Rainy Day Reader. And then you have questions about them, and then they're going to be talking about different poetry elements. So repetition, alliteration. All right, so getting into the first novel of Student Book 2, Elijah Buxton. Parentheses and brackets. All right, so now I'm gonna just kind of flip through a little bit faster. They do have sentence diagramming in Lightning Literature. I'm not sure what level they start it in, but they do have it in grade 2. So I don't know if grade 1 starts with sentence diagramming yet or not, or if they introduce that in grade 2. But sentence diagramming is definitely something they do throughout all of the levels. And people have mixed feelings about sentence diagramming. Some people really like it because it really helps to break down the structure of a sentence. Others don't really see the point of doing it. So it is completely up to you. Everybody has their different opinion. So if you want to skip it, it is easy to do. You can do that. If you want to do it, it is there for you. So either way, it fits what you need. I'm going to show you the teacher's guide now. So the teacher's guide is a black and white book. People often ask me if you need both the teacher's guide and student book to complete the course, and I believe you do. The teacher's guide has a lot of information in it It has all of the composition instructions in the teacher's guide. The actual writing instruction is not in the student book. It's in the guide. So you need that. And then it has the answers to all of the grammar questions and comprehension questions and all sorts of stuff. Day 1, they give you a welcome, and it tells you what today's reading is. It talks about the comprehension questions, and then it talks through the lesson. Here's the composition. This week, the students will choose one topic for the week and write one piece each day on that topic. So they're going to pick a topic, and then they get to pick a way to write it, different types of papers, and each day they're going to write a different one. I do like that they give you some other ideas than just an essay per se. So they have like a play, a comic strip or illustrated story, an autobiography or a memoir, a recipe, an advertisement. So they give you a little bit of a different, way of approaching if you have a more creative kid that way. Day 2, you have your comprehension questions. The reading, they're breaking down the theme, the story, the characters, the setting, external and internal details, conflict, and symbolism. Here's your discussion questions that you go through with your child. And then one thing that I really do like with Lightning Literature is it is a 4-day-a-week schedule. Day 5 is meant for using as like a catch-up day if there's something you need to finish. Maybe you didn't finish the reading, or maybe you need to work on the composition project. They also give you, oftentimes, an extending the lesson option. So they're saying, read some other stories from Hans Christian Andersen, do a study of snakes, do any poisonous snakes live in your area, etc. Illustrate one or more scenes from the readings. So they give you a way to kind of like make it more fun or dive in deeper. I really like doing that for any historical fiction novels we do, because then you can learn a little bit about that time period in history and such. Let's get into the first novel here. So Prairie Lotus, here's your week at a glance. This is what they're going to be covering. They give you some optional materials. So information on Western U.S. 1880, the Los Angeles riots of 1871, the Dakota Treaty with the U.S. government, the Gold Rush, Pikes Peak, history of Chinese people in the U.S. during the second half of the 19th century, drawing materials, sewing materials, ingredients for making soup with codfish, onions, and potatoes, brushes for trying Chinese calligraphy, information on Dakota language, pictures of clothing from the U.S. in the 1880s. So again, these are optional materials for like extending the lessons if you feel you want to. Day 1, their reading is 1 and 2. Then their comprehension questions are here. Today's lesson is on writing an introduction and title for a personal essay. Composition today, students complete their rough draft. So this is not, it's hard to say with composition. So we actually, the entire time that we've used Lightning Literature, we started using composition with the first level, but then I very quickly realized it wasn't explicit enough instruction for me to teach her how to write. From what I know, they do have extra worksheet, like not worksheets, but like pages that you can request from them directly, supposed to give you kind of a more expansion on composition for each level. So I haven't actually looked really much into that, a little bit, but not a lot. We've always just done composition a different way. So take what you want from it. You don't have to use everything in a curriculum, and we just choose not to do the composition in here. Today, students will review their rough draft, focusing on prepositional phrases, dependent clauses, and organization. Can they identify the prepositional phrases they've used? Are there any sentences where prepositional phrases have made for confusing or awkward reading? So they are tying in the grammar lessons with their composition, which is nice. Today's reading is 5 to 7. Here's your comprehension questions and your workbook answers, your grammar answers, all laid out in here. Here's where they're doing extending the lesson. The story takes place in 1880 in the Dakota Territory. Students can research what the Western U.S. looked like at this time, draw a map of it. There are specific historic events that are mentioned in the reading this week. The Los Angeles riots of 1871, the Dakota Treaty with the U.S. government, and the Gold Rush at Pikes Peak. Hannah's passion is sewing. Spend these 3 weeks learning some sewing, either by hand or on a machine. Choose a simple pattern that will work well for all children, such as an apron or a t-shirt. Super cute. Look for photos and drawings of how people dressed in 1880. Hannah makes soup with codfish, onions, and potatoes. Try this. How does it taste? Study the history of Chinese people in the U.S. Learn some Chinese calligraphy. Like I said, I really like the extensions. I think they're cool. At the end of the novel, which you're getting to here, I believe, you're breaking down the literary analysis. So theme, story, characters, setting, external, internal details, conflict, and symbolism. Some more discussion questions and such. So that is kind of the flow of the program. I love the flow. It works. It's always worked really well for us. It doesn't take a ton of time, and we've enjoyed this curriculum. She requested to use this curriculum again this year because we took a break from it this past year, and she just loves it so much. So that is Lightning Literature. Really quickly, I'm going to show you a little bit of this Rainy Day Reader. So the Rainy Day Reader is a book of poetry and short stories, speeches, all sorts of stuff in here. And it is actually a publication of Hewitt. So you have to get this book from them directly or from anywhere that sells Lightning Literature, like Rainbow Resources. So inside it's literally like a ton of little stories, poems, so many things. It's actually like a really cool collection of things to just use on its own. Even if you didn't use Lightning Literature, this book is actually really, really cool. A lot of variety in here. And you use this book for both level Storm and Tempest. So if you start it with Storm, then your next level, you're going to be using the same book. So I hope you guys found this helpful, this flip through. If you have any other questions that maybe I didn't answer or you came up with, leave them down below. I will do my best to answer them for you. We're really excited to jump into this next year, and I really like the look of this new level Storm. I think it looks really, really good and rich, and I'm excited about it. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in another video very soon. Bye.